Hopefully my clock thing doesn't happen. And here we go. All right, this is the Coast to Coast Combat Hour. Ed Carvajal, as always, with Matthew Hawkins here the week after UFC 252. This episode is brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Please check out All Access MMA for all your mixed martial arts news. Matt, so how'd you like UFC 252? You got some of the things you wanted, I saw.
No, I mean my predictions were pretty good, so I'll
Yeah,
pat myself on the back a little bit there. But overall, I enjoyed it. I've had people give me mixed opinions on the night of entertainment, but for the most part, I enjoyed it. Just on the main card, I think neither of us were surprised by Dashvili. I was a little bit surprised at how easy he had. Actually, he didn't really take down Dodson. What was he like, 1 of 18 or 1 of 20 or something? But
the
the
one that did happen, he got up. Dodson got up like right away. So
Yeah, so they really never took him down, but I guess the amount of pressure and stuff that Dashvili puts on his opponents is something that's obviously working for him. So he picks up a big win, goes to 12-4, unanimous decision, no question who won the fight. Um,
mhm.
Dodson, I think, as Cruz said, might be the toughest guy in the world to hold down. And it's amazing how a little dude like that basically floats up off the ground constantly.
I wonder if it's because of his dimensions. It's so easy for him to get up.
I think so. I mean, I don't know. I've never been that small, but I imagine it's easier to pick up your 125-pound body off the ground than it is to pick up your 225-pound body. So I don't know, but I mean, it's got obviously it's technique and skill that's involved in it that that he's damn good at takedown defense, but he wasn't able to unload on anything. I think the fear of the takedown, and I mean, when you consider that Dashvili, I believe it was 18 attempts. When you have 18 takedown attempts over a 15-minute fight, that's you don't have a lot of time to breathe. You're constantly fighting off the threat of the takedown and the grapple up against the cage and everything else. So really, it didn't leave much room for Dotson to be able to use any of his striking, or the fight never hit the ground, so there was never any submissions or anything like that. It was basically just Dasha really spamming takedown attempts and frustrating Dotson and picking up the win. So big win for him. I think the upset of the card um, would be Daniel Pineda. I know this was a fight that was a prelim fight that got moved to the main card when we had Kutalaba drop out with the COVID test. But Daniel Pineda, veteran who hadn't been in the UFC for a few years, comes back and dominates Herbert Burns. I know you wrote about that being a fight to see. We didn't really pick a winner in that fight, but I think we kind of were on the Burns wagon a little bit there. Were you surprised at what you saw in that bout?
I was a little bit surprised. Funny thing about the ending of that fight, you know, being the part of the Burns family and stuff like that. Almost immediately after, uh, Michael Bisping put up a nice counter to the position and how to get out of it when you're getting in the position that Burns lost in. But I mean, it's easy to analyze when you're not in the position and getting elbowed to death the way that he was. So I I want to say I was surprised, but I also know that Pineda was no slouch either. It's not like, I mean, he's a veteran in his own right, so I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. So I mean, that's how I immediately looked at it afterwards. So I was uh I was definitely sorry, I got an alert from the freaking fire company for my township. But yeah, it was definitely something that I was hoping it would have gone the other way, but that he got. I wonder if it was because they bumped him up to the main card, maybe threw him off. But I hear there were some weight issues too, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just went up against a guy who was on that night. I mean, all of these guys are killers in their own right. They just run into other killers at different times, and I think Pineda had one of those career performances that he's kind of been looking for since he came into the UFC. And obviously, Herbert Burns isn't the name that like his brother is, but big win for veteran. We'll keep him around. We'll definitely get him a few more fights in the UFC. where hopefully he can, although not huge money, definitely more money than he'd likely make fighting for any other smaller promotion around the country. So good for Pineda. That brings us to really the big 3 fights of the night, the ones that people were generally talking about. I was wrong on this prediction. I believe you were correct. You had Rosenstruck. I had Dos Santos and Jairzinho.
No, we
Took
were
the
both
K.
wrong because remember I picked Dos Santos because I picked against him for his fight before that. But yeah, no, we were both wrong.
So we were both wrong on that one. Then Dos Santos gets KO'd, um, putting his career in a sense limbo now. That's 3 losses in a row. He's starting to get KO'd a lot now. I think his run at any kind of top UFC billing is pretty much run its course now. So with that said, Rosenstruck picks up a huge win, goes to 11-1. His only loss against the number 1 contender currently in Ngannou. And with what we'll get to in the main event, the heavyweight door for title fights and big fights seems to really be open right now, considering I guess the lack of depth in general at heavyweight currently in the UFC, at least for big name guys that are going to really contend for a title. So Rosenstruck picks up a huge KO win. Like I said, surprise to me. I didn't think it would go that route, but it did, and he picks up the win and moves on. That brings us probably to the second biggest talked about, the co-main event fight. Neither of us really thought should be the co-main event. You picked Sugar Sean. I took Marlon Vera, despite being a little bit, not the most confident pick I've ever had. It was more a little personal bias, perhaps. But Marlon Vera.
That was a smart bettors pick, though. I mean, there's people that he was plus 240. I think the last time I checked the odds before that, underdog, and
Yeah, I mean, it's
money.
one of those things. I mean, I wish I was a gambler, or at least I wish Vegas was open so I could be there for these fights and then gamble. But it's a tough one. Obviously, an injury occurred. It appears to be the same injury that we had spoken about in the past with O'Malley, leg injury. This time he suffered it, and he fought an opponent who wasn't going to let him off the hook, although he kind of tried to by going down to the ground. I'll never understand having a guy's leg injured and then letting him fight from the ground. Seems weird to me. But Vera went in there and did different than what O'Malley's previous opponents did. He came out throwing some bomb elbows, really cracked O'Malley with one of them, it seemed like, and then Herb Dean shut it down, stopped the fight. A bit prematurely, perhaps, but I'm not going to hold anything against him. I think that considering the injury, if we didn't know that O'Malley had a bad leg and it didn't seem like he was going to last very long, or at least be able to really fight it out on the feet, I would have thought it was a horrible stoppage. But when you mix in the injury with it, I think it was a little bit of a compassionate stoppage. And for a young fighter like O'Malley, I didn't see any reason for him to take 25 unanswered elbows and get all cut up and broken orbitals and all that stuff that goes along with it. So, quick stoppage, but I think
there's speculation as to if the injury was already there, or if it was from a kick that got checked, or him checking a kick. Because it looked like Joe Rogan said it during the broadcast. It looked like similar to what happened to Michael Chandler when he fought Brent Primus here in New York with the calf kicks. So, the calf kicks are the new leg kicks from back in the day. Who was the guy that was known for throwing leg kicks in the early UFC days? For some reason,
Marco Huas.
Marco Huas. So, like that's the new Marco Huas move. Instead of leg kicks, it's calf kicks. Everyone's throwing them and looking to make shins break or fall asleep, or the nerve damage seems to make the placement of your foot, or lose control of how you place your foot when you're putting weight down on it. Because I know when Michael Chandler spoke with our boy Ariel Helwani after that injury, he was fine, and they said it's just like a really bad Charlie horse that shuts off that part of your body when landed right. So hopefully he's all right. I didn't see any injury updates on him, but
Well, I mean, we got two things involved here. Then, I mean, either in a sense, I mean, I don't want him to be injured with an injury that's terrible, but I'd almost rather have there be some kind of damage. Otherwise, I mean, have we figured out that you just need to hit O'Malley with a calf kick and you bust his leg up? I mean, I would think as like a fighter, you wouldn't want to just have a button that shuts you down every time. So the fact
Yeah.
that they're saying it's the same injury, and there's no real injury. Well, I shouldn't.
Well,
I haven't seen evidence of like broken bones
yeah.
or anything
Well,
like
the
that.
thing of it is, if it could be just a problem part of his body that he needs to either adjust his training or adjust the way that he fights too. I mean, when you look at athletes at that level and the things that they do to their body, maybe he never even, these guys have to, if you're on the shelf, you're not making money, and in his case, if you're not making money and you're not out in being pushed and marketed, then all his other things start to fail. The stuff he does on Twitch or whatever else he does that he makes money on. So it's one of those things that it's like, maybe he jumped back into soon and he never really recovered from the first time. But it's twice already that we see him fall to that same limb issue, his lower extremities of was that his right leg, I think it was.
Yeah, and I think I think it seems really serious with him the way because of his movements. The way he fights, he kind of is bouncing around. He's not a stationary plodding fighter that can kind of maybe shake that off. It really throws his style and ability to use all his weapons when one of his limbs is not working 100% properly. So, but Vera picks up the win. I mean, this moves Vera into some company now where he's kind of can be hyped. I mean, he's 18-6, so his record doesn't jump out at you like something crazy, but um, he's a foreigner, so he's got a country that can kind of get behind him. He speaks English, which is big.
Speaks English and Spanish really well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I mean that's big for a foreign fighter, um, and he's exciting to watch. I mean, he just seems to kind of keep creeping up the ladder, and at first he was just kind of a prelim guy that you just kind of so be it, so be it. Well, he's 12-5 now. He's 18-6 or something like that, and
Yeah, it's
uh,
funny. John Anik said during the broadcast, before right when you were walking into the cage, he's like, he's hoping he can build his name off of a win over O'Malley, and it looks like that's exactly what's happening.
yeah, and I think that that's the positive upside of calling a guy like O'Malley out. Um, from a bettor's perspective, the O'Malley thing was there to be taken because there's been a history of guys that the UFC picks and chooses basically who they want to be the kind of their superstars. We saw with Sage Northcutt.
Hmm.
There's probably been several times throughout history where you could kind of go, that guy's a little overhyped. He's fighting a kind of a bulldog of a dude. This is the fight to maybe try to make some money on. And again, I didn't make any money on it, so it's all kind of talking out my ass. But that's the kind of way I see it, where you there's certain guys that you can pick. I mean, I don't think anybody, if they rematched, I wouldn't think that O'Malley would be a 3-1 favorite. Um, so, I mean, I would think we're talking basically an even money line if they fought again. So interesting. We'll see where Vera goes from here. Again, like does he move up? Does he piss the UFC off in a sense by beating one of their guys that they had fast tracked up the ladder, or does he get a huge fight now and keep a co-main event level status, or at least a pay-per-view main card level status? So that'll be interesting. But the fight that everybody tuned in to watch, the fight that had championship, you know, uh, it was a championship fight. The fight that had legacy written all over it was the world heavyweight title fight that headlined the card. Defending champion Stipe Miocic faced former two division champion Daniel Cormier. During the predictions, I predicted a 3-2 close decision for Stipe Miocic. Basically, he won 3-2. Not quite as close. Close in the fact that it was 3-2, but the 3 rounds that Stipe won were pretty damn cut and dry. I don't think I see anybody really arguing. I haven't seen anybody argue a robbery or anything.
No, no.
When it was all said and done, it was one of those fights that I wouldn't have been opposed to a draw, and I know that would have thrown everything into fucking chaos.
Yeah.
But
Well, look at it this
Stipe did
way.
win the fight.
Yeah. But look, if let's say in another world, Cormier won that decision, and but he still retires, then then you're left with having to make a new heavyweight championship fight or whatever. I mean, it's kind of better that for the division that Stipe held on to the belt. But one thing you had mentioned last week when we were looking at the card was about the thing about the size of the cage and what type of fight that would make. And the first round, I thought it didn't make a difference, but as the fight pressed on, I feel like it did. Stipe said he preferred a bigger cage in the post-fight press conference. Obviously, he won though, so it doesn't look like it made much of a difference for him. But I wonder if that's why we didn't see as much wrestling from Daniel as we should have, or if the eye issue was something. Because Dana White pointed this out also at the post-fight press conference that before Cormier's eye got poked, it was already bothering him, probably from when he got dropped or something. But it looked like his eye was already starting to bother him before he got poked, not when because they were 1-1 with eye pokes in that fight. So
yeah, I did. Yeah, the announcers even talked about the size cage difference and how that would affect it. Like you said, early on, Cormier actually went for a takedown.
yeah,
So that's when I thought it would play more of a role. I just think during the rest of the fight, it just keeps them so close to each other. Whereas Stipe kind of was taking control of the fight in a smaller cage, even in the fifth round with a dude
yeah,
who's basically fighting with one eye. There's really nowhere to hide. He's got the dude constantly on him. I mean, up until the final bell rang for that fight, we were one punch away from Cormier winning by knockout. I mean, we're talking they were throwing some haymakers. You know, Cormier's just gotten older. I mean, I don't. They're obviously not completely the same, but I almost felt like it was kind of like a better cardioed version of kind of an older Fedor that I was watching as far as just kind of a same kind of built dude. Cormier was throwing kind of Hail Mary overhand rights that were a little bit different than I remember him throwing historically.
he landed a lot of those too, though. I mean,
he was, but it was a technique that I don't necessarily remember him just winding up and throwing Hail Mary overhand rights. So, and it just, I kind of felt like, okay, like I felt like maybe watching an aging Fedor where you're watching one of the greats who is all of a sudden now just a step behind. And I know he's fighting Miocic. He's not fighting Maldonado or some of the other guys Fedor's fought, but it was like, it was, I just felt like, okay, Cormier is just not the same. He wasn't the same beast that I felt like he was, obviously 5 years ago. And we start talking about, cleaning house and Strikeforce tournaments and all that other stuff.
But I mean, Stipe can take a punch, that's for sure. I mean, because he took a lot of those right hands. A lot of them were solid, stiff, hard punch through. Put his weight behind him right hands, and Stipe just shook him off and kept coming at him. I mean, that's definitely. I mean, I got to say one thing, because so I mean, the report came out the following Monday that he's got a torn cornea in the eye, but the thing he said that stuck to me when Joe Rogan, because he did speak to Joe Rogan at the end of the fight after he lost, and he said the only thing he said, two things. One thing was that the only thing that would draw him, he doesn't want to fight anymore if he's not fighting for a title, which I know we're going to get into, how retired he really is because of that statement. And then the other thing is he said, I've been in 2 rivalries for heavyweight and light heavyweight for the championships, and I lost the championships. And he seemed like to really beat himself up over that. But I mean, when I looked at it, I'm like, dude, you still had to win them first before you lost them. So like, stop. Like, I mean, I know that's his mindset as an Olympic level competitor, and from wrestling to be hard on himself for the loss. So I get that's where he's coming from, but I mean, dude, like the guy still, if you look at everything he's done from someone that wasn't interested in MMA at all to go through the Strikeforce tournament and win the belt there and then do what he did in the UFC. I mean, that dude's got nothing. I mean, it's a good time to hang it up, and there's nothing wrong walking away from a decision loss against somebody that you beat before, and you got your 1-1 against, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Cormier is an all-time great. He's top 10 all time in both weight classes,
Yeah.
across all MMA organizations. I would say all time. So, I mean, he's his legacy's firm. He just did what a lot of other guys do, and a lot, not so much us, but a lot of MMA fans are fickle in the point where they just judge you off your last performance or two. And although it wasn't a bad performance, even his previous fight wasn't a bad performance, he lost to a younger, maybe better fighter, maybe even fighter who he just lost to because he's older. I mean, Cormier hung on for 2 more fights. If Cormier retires after fighting Derek Lewis, um, he essentially is the all-time greatest UFC heavyweight champion, and he disappears with the belt. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, so that's why I hate criticizing guys who go, okay, well, I'm going to go again. He didn't have to give Stipe a rematch the first time, you know, but he keeps pushing himself. He's challenging himself, and he lost. But I would be shocked if we don't see him again. I know he's only
Yeah.
what is he? He's only 40, right? Or maybe just approaching 41. He's not all that old as far as another one more fight left in him. We see it all the time with guys still hanging around. I don't want to see him come back and just get an automatic title shot. I think that's kind of just, I don't like that idea. I think he should
Yeah,
have to.
we saw what happened when that happened, like with George St. Pierre. You know, George St. Pierre came back, fought for the middleweight title, and then screwed up the division because he didn't want to. He did a one and done. So
Yeah.
we don't want
See,
to see that
I don't.
either.
But the difference between Cormier and GSP is I don't think Cormier is going to wait for the weakest heavyweight champion to ever show up, and then decide that that's the fight he wants. I think what's going to happen, and it might end up being an automatic title shot, is if John Jones ends up world heavyweight champion sometime in like the next 2.5 years. I think you see Cormier come out of retirement and challenge John Jones. I think that's the fight at heavyweight that he would take. I think that's what would draw him out of. He's not going to come out of retirement to fight JDS. He's not going to come out of retirement to fight Rosenstruck. Uh, I don't think those guys have the value of him. I think it would be John Jones getting getting a shot at Stipe, picking up a win, and then all of a sudden you're going to have Cormier knocking on the door going, "Hey, I'm still here." So that's the way I see it. We'll see what happens. If he doesn't come back, then hang in there, man. He's made a lot of money. He's a great commentator, uh, and like I said, a legend of the sport. He can pick and choose what he wants to do for the rest of his life,
One
essentially in the
one
sport.
thing I got to say is, if it seems like, I mean, I don't know if he does it intentionally or what, he probably does, but it seems like every time Cormier tries to have his own little celebration, John Jones has to come in and steal that fire. You know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, farewell, have a happy retirement, and then he's like, okay, look out, heavyweights, here I come, and then
Oh,
I'm pulling out,
there's
yeah.
yeah, it was 100% calculated. John Jones had this plan for weeks, if not months. He was tweeting before they even announced the winner that he was
Yeah,
coming
Joe
into the
Rogan
heavyweight
mentioned
division.
that on when they put up his tweet on the screen. Joe Rogan even said, he's been already putting on Instagram. Apparently, he's putting up all these bulk up videos, and it's like, all right. But if I mean, I feel like, I mean, Dana White addressed that at the post fight press conference, and he was like, yeah, that's fine and dandy that he said that, but Francis Ngannou is number one contender, and that's that. And I think that has a lot to do with all the earlier stuff with the the contract negotiation stuff that was happening a couple of months ago, and calling out the UFC on pay me my worth and stuff like that. So now it's like, I mean, they know they can make money off of them, but again, I mean, you brought up the thing about ticket sales on a couple episodes already, and with no fans, it's like how much more are we going to play this game with money here? If you're not going to, you'll draw in maybe some pay per view buys, but I mean, John Jones is not like, I feel like he's popular, but he's popular the way, like, I don't know, someone annoying is popular, like
No, I get what you're saying.
the
He's yeah, a lot of as many people root for him to lose as they do root for him to
yeah,
win.
and there's people that think he lost that fight against Reyes. Though, as soon as that came up, I saw a lot of comments from people just saying, like, yeah, well, technically he's not the light heavyweight champ. There's no belt to vacate because he lost. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I thought Reyes won the fight. I think we
I
talked
know.
that, but I don't think that Reyes is the champion. John Jones is the champion. You know, that's just how the chips fell, and that's he won the decision in a fairly close fight. I don't. So that I don't know. I just feel like he's caused so much damn headache for the UFC. There's other fights I'd like to see him have at heavyweight. If
Mm.
Ngannou's going to fight Stipe like Curtis Blades and John Jones is a hell of a stylistic matchup. You start talking. I mean, we start talking about one of the heavyweights that has one of the greatest takedown ratios of all time in
You know,
Blades.
what's funny is that I think it was yesterday or the day before or Monday, they said Anthony Rumble's back in the testing pool and coming back, and I'm like, that's the fight that we always wanted to see. I mean, and Rumble's a big dude. I mean, I think his intention is to come back at light heavyweight, but he could definitely come back at heavyweight. I mean, if you want to start hyping up the heavyweight division, that's a fight to make. John
You
Jones.
know, it adds it. It's all funny how this all falls together. I mean, you got Cormier leaving, basically. You got John Jones deciding that's the time now he wants to go to heavyweight, even though the guy leaving's a guy he's defeated twice.
Mhm.
And then you've got Rumble, who is sitting on the outside, who's always talked about coming back at heavyweight, deciding now that John Jones is going to heavyweight, he's going to come back at light heavyweight, where there's really no. I mean, we're probably going to get Reyes versus Blakovic. Vacant light heavyweight title fight here in the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the next what 253 is.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. Rumble's exciting to watch, but I've never fallen into the fact. I've never seen him as that elite world champion. Let's say I've always seen him as kind of like an Ngannou, where he scares the hell out of people and he hits them hard, but his wrestling just never was there for me. I always figured if if Cormier could
Yeah, he lost
dismantle him
twice by
twice,
submission. Yeah.
I always figured John Jones would make easy work of him. At light heavyweight, especially at heavyweight, it becomes a different ball game because then you start talking about maybe you got Rumble at like 260. I mean, the pictures we've seen
Well,
of him have been
like you
massive.
said, that's the thing with. I mean, the whole draw and the interest about a possible Rumble versus Jones is that puncher's chance with guys like Anthony Rumble Johnson and Francis Ngannou. The puncher's chance for them is it's like times 1,000 because of the power that they bring. Even a blocked punch still absorbed is still gonna knock them off balance. You know what I mean? It makes for an interesting fight. So I mean, who knows? I mean, the way the fights have been getting booked during this pandemic, I mean, we could possibly see all or none of those. So
Well, let's put it this way: if everything goes the way MMA history will tell us, we're going to end up getting John Jones versus Gustafsson 3 at heavyweight. I mean, that's because I don't. I guess maybe Verdun's not under contract anymore, but Verdun John Jones interests me a lot. I just want to see John Jones against these heavyweight dudes that are legitimate heavyweights. I don't need to see John Jones against a blown up light heavyweight. I want to see him fight. If he's going to go to the heavyweight class, Blades is a huge monster of a dude. I've never stood right next to John Jones, so I can't tell you his size, but I have stood next to Blades, and the guy's a friggin' monster. Um, Stipe's a bigger guy, but probably a little bit more built like Jones. Blades and Ngannou, these guys are friggin' monsters. I'd love to see Verdun. Verdun's a huge dude. I'd love to see. I'd like to see John Jones fight a true heavyweight that isn't just a bloated light heavyweight. So that'll be interesting to see what they do. I imagine he's not going to go for anything less than a title shot. Probably Jones Stipe is probably the least interesting out of all those fights for me, honestly. Like I said, Blades, because I'd like to see if he could stop the wrestling. It'd be cool to see Jones against somebody who could maybe out wrestle him. See how Jones decides he's got to try to win a fight where he's at a disadvantage in one of his strong points. So there's so much available, though. I think this is the right call for Jones, though. I think he had run his course at light heavyweight while people want to see Reyes again and Jan fight. I think the money fights, the fights that interest me and would make me want to pay money to go watch is definitely John Jones fighting at heavyweight.
yeah. I mean, it's certainly interesting to see where we'll be by the end of this horrible year. So I mean, there's a lot of. I think for the next big fight everyone's looking at. I mean, I know they're trying to hype up Paul Costa and Israel Adesanya, but I think everyone's looking at lightweight Gaethje and Khabib as the next big fight for the remainder of the year. So we'll see.
Yeah, both those are great fights. I guess the one thing that we didn't see coming, and while Jones is going to go move to heavyweight, I think the biggest move that was a shock to everybody was seeing Paige Van Zant. We knew her contract was up with UFC, and we thought maybe she was going to go to. I would have bet my house she was going to go to Bellator along with her husband,
Yeah.
Vanderfort, but she signed with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships. Man, surprise to me. I do think it's cool that she's got the balls the size of, Godzilla. Uh,
Well,
I
it's
mean,
like,
it's a gutsy fucking move.
yeah. I mean, I get it and I don't get it. Obviously, they threw a lot of money at her. I mean, people always wonder where BKFC gets their money from, but I mean, regardless of where it comes from, if you're the one getting it, what do you care? Um, but one thing that stood out, I mean, it's something. I think I mentioned it before. Like I wasn't impressed with Van Zant until she lost that fight against Rose Namajunas. She's she's a pretty girl that does all the Instagrammy things and all this stuff, and with the way she says thank you and all that stuff. It's like, she's your typical like chick or whatever, but then she's still a competitive combat sports athlete, and one of the things that I know ESPN put up the quote where she said, I don't want to be just another pretty face. I think she's just trying to do this for herself to show, or not to show people, more for herself to be like, listen, I am a fighter and I like fighting. So if this is supposed to be the most brutal part of combat sports, then, and I mean, let's be honest, her grappling is her weakness. She calls herself 12 gauge because she likes to throw hands and stuff. I mean, it might work out great for her, and I give her credit. It makes me think of if you ever watched if you ever watched the movie Fight Club on DVD, like the special features of it. There's an interview in it with Helena Bonham Carter, and she's talking about how great an actor Brad Pitt is, but it's overshadowed because he's like a pretty guy. You don't get, he's known for his looks. He's not known for his acting. By maybe in his older age he did, but back then, at the time that film came out, and for some reason that jumped in my head when Paige Van Zant said what she said. Like she's a great looking girl that everyone talks about Dancing with the Stars and Instagram and the funny stuff she does with her husband, the naked pictures or whatever they're doing on Instagram. But it's like it's almost like she's stomping her foot on the ground saying, hey, I am a fighter and I'm gonna prove it. So hey, I hope it works out. I'll watch. Hopefully they put it on YouTube.
Yeah, I think she takes heat because she is it cuts both ways though. I mean, she's got where she is. She's a hard worker, but she's got where she is because of her looks. I mean, that's straight up being as honest as you can. There's nothing wrong with that. She took advantage of it. She's also been tough as hell. Tougher than I am, man. I've seen her take some beatings in there. I'm not signing up to fight bare knuckle. So I give her all the credit in the world. I always have, though. I've always been a fan of hers. I never thought she was going to be a world champion. I was just always thought she had great heart. I thought she was a fun person. Some of the stuff since she's got married has gotten a little bit over the top, cutesy kind of BS that I don't find as entertaining now at my age. Maybe, but yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a big FU to the world that goes, hey, you're just a pretty face, can't fight, you wouldn't be anywhere. And she goes, well, okay, suck off. I'm gonna go fight bare knuckle now. And not only am I gonna fight bare knuckle, but I'm going into an organization where I've knocked out the champion of bare knuckle. So that's got to be some motivation. Although she knocked out Beck Rollins with a kick, it still has got to be, she's got to be going, shoot, I knocked this chick out. Why don't I get that belt?
How old is she?
How old is Paige?
Yeah.
Oh, dude. I mean, I'd have to look, but I can't imagine she's much older than like 27.
Yeah, so she's even if she does, like, if she's there for 2 years, 3 years, I forget the details of the contract. I tried watching they had the press conference today.
She's 26.
BKFC. Yeah, so like she can move on past that if she she can put in her time at bare knuckle and still go to Bellator if she wants to. I'm sure Scott Coker's definitely the type of guy that's like, hey, if you're not interested now, then we'll talk later.
The difference is she's taken a different route than most people. Most people do the MMA thing and then kind of finish up at bare knuckle because it's the last hurrah for what we've seen so far with at least building the bare knuckle brand. Um, to be kind of in her athletic prime, I don't know if there is anything after this because I don't know I don't know what the longevity of somebody. We haven't seen it, the longevity of anybody who's fighting bare knuckle. I
Yeah.
mean, go back to old MMA and stuff, but you still had wrestling and stuff to kind of protect yourself. This is basically, dire, kill or be killed. So,
Yeah.
um, and her looks are gonna fade fighting bare knuckle. I mean, a scar here, a scar there can be kind of cute, but um, if she starts getting her teeth knocked out and stuff, it'll go downhill a little bit. So I don't know
Mm.
if there is, but I don't know if she needs any more fighting. If they're paying her what's rumored they're being to be paying her with the amount of money she says she makes on Instagram, and all that other stuff, then maybe
Yeah.
she just maybe it's like, okay, I'm gonna do 3 fights of the hardest thing in the world to do that
And
people are
then
claiming, and then I'm gonna retire and I'm gonna be a multimillionaire the rest of my life. I mean,
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean,
And plus,
there's talk of her using her for other stuff though, like commentating future
mhm,
events and things like that. So it's obviously whatever it is, it's not just fighting. It's having her as a face for the brand that they can rely on. Because they tried having Paulie and they have all these like you said, they have all these walkthrough fighters, and then you don't see them. So it's definitely something that she could milk for a while.
if you're going to have a spokeswoman who's a fighter, then I mean, really, who else would you have other than her at this point?
Yeah.
She's got the face; people know her. She still has she still was on Dancing with the Stars and stuff. I mean, that still resonates with a lot of middle-aged women, and those people aren't going to be tuning in to watch bare knuckle per se, but I would think that you might see some media around her fighting in bare knuckle that we never saw for any of the other previous bare knuckle events.
Yeah.
Um, so that could be. I mean, depending on how they play it and stuff. But man, all props to her. I hope she's successful, and I hope it pays off. You know, I, bare knuckles have at events. I know their dates are getting all shuffled. They're getting stuff canceled, moving stuff around. But it looks like September 11th is their next event. Lombard and I forget who Lombard's fighting, but Baroni's fighting Thiago Alves. Um, some MMA names. So uh, they're keeping their ball rolling. I again never I imagine the money that they have is probably not on the most up and up clean money, but we all watched Ozark and and Breaking Bad and know
Yeah, yeah.
how that works.
Hey, whatever it
uh,
is, I mean, we need stuff to watch while we're still locked in. So
yeah, exactly. So props to her, guts. That brings us then to this weekend. Not going to go through the entire UFC card. Uh, Honestly, it's not that great, and there's not a lot of names. The main event is a fight that we recognize both names, and it's a fight worth noting. Frankie Edgar from your neck of the woods. What's the city he's from?
Tom's River.
Tom's River. I know Tom's River because they won the Little League World Series in like 1993 or something when I was playing Little League baseball. But yeah, so Tom's Rivers, Frankie Edgar, Pedro Munoz in the main event. I keep thinking these fights like this is fight taking place in like South Korea or something, but everything's just taking place in Vegas.
Yeah.
Munoz coming off a loss to Sterling. Um, and then he had 3 consecutive canceled fights with Frankie Edgar. They just kept moving it, moving it, moving it. Finally, it looks like it's going to go down. So, you know, like I said, Munoz coming off the loss to Sterling. Frankie Edgar coming off 2 losses to Holloway and Chan Sung Jung. The loss to the Korean Zombie was pretty brutal. So we might be coming to the end here of Frankie Edgar's run. Um, I don't know. I won't pick against Frankie.
No, me neither.
I don't want to go down that route. I think it's going to be a good fight. I think it'll be a tough fight for Frankie Edgar, but I'll say he veteran outs a win here with a hard fought decision win.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not picking against him either. So that's enough of that. We skipped to Saturday, but Friday night we got Bellator 244 coming up.
Yeah, exactly. Bellator's really the highlight of the weekend.
Yeah.
Um, some tremendous fights. We're starting to get the fights that I missed out on, which I originally had scheduled for the May 16th. Actually, I'm sorry, the May 9th event that I was holding on to before COVID broke out, and then it never happened. But now we're at least getting that main event, which was initially scheduled for that night. Ryan Bader, the double champ in Bellator, goes up against the first stage of the Team Fedor Fight Team Revenge Tour.
Yeah.
Light heavyweight Vadim Nemkov, 11-2, but he has looked nothing but. I mean, he's been dominant in Bellator. His losses are to Prokaska, who's making a name for himself in UFC, and Carl Albrechtsen was a split decision loss at also who's and he's fighting in Bellator. Had a tough fight in his last fight with Phil Davis. Man, fun fight. I'm going with Team Fedor. I think
shocker.
yeah, shocker. I think Nemkov picks apart Bader with some kicks, avoids the big left hand, and I'll say Nemkov. Hell, I'll go with a 4th round finish. Leg kicks, drops him, finishes him on the ground.
You know, one of the things I like about Bellator is how any fight is. I mean, MMA is unpredictable enough, but something about Bellator's events, like especially fights like this, you know, I know Bader's got a lot of experience. He's been doing really well there, but I mean, something about of course, the highlight reels make everybody look good, but just something about what I saw from Nemkov and the victories they showed in the recent highlight reel that they put out. It's kind of hard not to pick him. I feel like we're due for I haven't even looked at the odds for this yet, but I feel like we're due for something. If Bader's the favorite, then I feel like we might be due for another upset.
Slight favorite. Bader's slight favorite -170.
Yeah, see, I mean, so the fact that he's a slight favorite means it really is hard to call. But yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I'm not gonna make it like a prediction of it because I feel like I just want to wait and see what happens.
I think it's going to be a great fight. Like I said, I think we're on the precipice of a Team Fedor takeover of Bellator, with considering some of all their guys are spread out among weight classes. So between the Tolkov brothers, Nemkov, and Modolsky, who also fights later on this card, it'd be interesting. Co-main event for that night: Julia Budd versus Jessie Miele. I don't know much about Miele, including how to pronounce her last name, but this looks like it's kind of a custom-made squash match a little bit to me. I will go with Julia Budd by complete and utter domination.
Yeah, I mean, she is a former featherweight champ, and I would imagine she wants to get back on the winning path to get the belt back, maybe have a rematch or what have you. So yeah, I can't disagree with that one. The next one, I'm almost. I have to say, I don't know if Bellator hates Roy Nelson or what the deal is, but it's been a weird. It's been a weird year. No, well, listen. Every time they keep putting him in Mohegan Sun, and he keeps losing there or having issues there. You know, he stormed out of the one during the press event there. I feel when I interviewed him for the last time he fought there, because I was in for that fight week, I asked him, I'm like, what's up with you and Mohegan Sun? And he was like, I must be cursed or something. You know, like he comments on it. It might even be on, I think I put that video up on this YouTube channel. I'd have to check. I definitely have it in my file somewhere, but he, oh no, it's either there or at the MMAnews.com YouTube channel, but either way, it's almost like come on, man. Like I mean, I know they don't have a choice right now because of the pandemic and COVID-19, but I can't pick him because he always loses there.
It's funny looking at his Bellator record. He won his Bellator debut in San Jose against Javier Ayala. Since then, he's 0-4 fighting in Mohegan Sun.
Yeah, Like it's like they don't have a choice. This is it for them. I mean, probably till December if things don't get better. I know they have it until September. They've announced, but as far as like the remaining, the rest of the year, if they're gonna go, I know that the Viacom, CBS, both Showtime Boxing and Bellator, they have the Mohegan Sun Arena until at least December, and that's on Mohegan Sun's news site. So if he doesn't have anywhere else to fight, and these guys got to get paid if they want to make money, and I guess that's it for him. But I just feel bad that he's in this situation. But it's a crazy year. It's been a crazy year for everybody. Maybe he wins. Maybe the weird year 2020 turns things around for him.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't see it. I think Moldovsky is the future of the heavyweight division. I think he will be the guy that eventually beats Bader to complete the revenge tour for Team
Oh, this is
Fedor.
the other guy. Yeah.
9-1, only loss was by split decision to Ali Akbari in Ryzen. Coming off dominant wins over Ayala, Vassell. He might need, I think he might need another couple fights, but I don't see how Roy Nelson beats him, to be honest. I'd expect Roy Nelson to be on his ass quickly into this fight and getting beat up until.
I mean, Roy Nelson's a tough dude, but it's horrible that he has to fight there. That's all I have to say about that.
It seems to me like he's come down to he's just Hail Mary punches at this point of his career.
Yeah.
I don't, I think he, I don't know. That's the way I see it. So we'll see what happens. But I'll take Moldovsky. Like I said, I think he's the future of the heavyweight division.
I like Bellator. I have to say, I like Bellator's website too, better than the UFC's website. Just the smoothness of it.
Yeah, it is a little cleaner. Plus, like our podcast, they have a good color scheme going.
Yeah,
a lot of black, red, and white. So
yeah.
John Salter gets moved up to the. He's a main card fighter here against Andrew Capel. I'll take Salter. Just good fighter. I expect him to pick up the win here. I don't know if you have anything to add about that bout.
No, I like John Salter. I mean, folks, there's more. I think folks have seen a lot of his little funny grappling academy advertisements where the dude's getting tossed in the back screaming. But he's definitely somebody that he can definitely market himself a little better. This is a good opportunity for folks, to have him on the main card. Bellator's last Henderson Chandler did the best ratings they've had, this whole year on Paramount Network. So I would imagine this Friday is going to be a good amount of eyeballs on Bellator too on Friday night. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad that he's on the main card.
Yeah. So that's the 4-fight main card. Bellator generally sticks to that. This one we got a 5-round main event. So
yeah, the prelims, just real quick, the prelims are on YouTube.
YouTube, the app. And, lots of ways to find the prelims, but the prelims are loaded. Better run of prelims I've seen. I see Yuri Thompson chiming in, Spark Yuri chiming in, saying Amasov. Yes, Amasov is on the prelims, which is a bit odd. 23-0, fighting 11-1 Mark Lemminger. Interesting fight. Vladimir Tolkov.
Did I scroll past that?
The little of the Tolkov brothers. Eric Perez, former El Gallo, versus Josh Hill. That's interesting. Piccolotti versus Sydney Outlaw. Basically, there's the Amasov fight. So, yeah, just a lot of names, a lot of good records.
Yeah.
I think Bellator has done a surprisingly good job. I know their first event only had a couple prelims. Last couple events have added on, and I like where they're going with their prelims. I think we're moving on a lot from the 1-and-1 dude who works at the 7-Eleven down the street from the SAP Center, getting on the card just to sell some tickets. We're looking at some world-class talent. Yeah, that's Vladimir Tolkov, Anatoly Tokov's brother. I watched he fought on the same card as Anatoly.
Yeah, I mean, at this
Here at
5-0 versus a 4-0 fighter, I mean that should be make for an interesting fight. I mean, I've always loved Bellator prelims. I know Jay Petrie from Sure Dog's making fun of me because I was hyping him up, but I mean, I always love the prelims at Bellator just because they always seem to be
violent.
exciting and violent. Yeah, so
Good pacing.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean they fly through them because usually they have more than they really should have. I
Yeah,
think what do we got here, like 13 fights or something like that, roughly.
yeah.
11 fights. So in reality, that's a perfect Bellator card. The 20 fights. Uh, there's Z Boxing News. Shout out to New Jersey. Yeah, we gave that with Frankie Edgar, Tom's River boy, and we both team Frankie this weekend.
Just FYI, that's Danny Zaldivar's YouTube channel as well. So make sure you check out his YouTube channel.
Love it. So yeah. Bellator Friday night, UFC Saturday night. UFC main card is on Big ESPN. Prelims are on Plus, so that is a positive for the fans that don't like dishing out constant amounts of money for streaming. So yeah, and then Bellator Paramount. Actually, it says U.S. broadcast DAZN. I've seen it advertised for it's Paramount and DAZN. I can see it on the poster.
Yeah.
So that's got that outlets, and then like you said, the prelims on YouTube.
It's almost like they're just like, yeah, it's on the zone too because we're about to be done with them. But Paramount's, their main. That's Paramount, and I predicted we're going to start seeing stuff on more. I mean, they already have that Bellator. I already forget Bellator Rewind on CBS Sports, and I mean, if they can get back to the old days where they just put it on CBS, some of these cards, that would be awesome for Bellator because everybody's got Channel 2.
And I don't use it a lot, but it seemed like kind of some cool news that Bellator got their own little Pluto channel, 24 hours a day of Bellator fights. I did check it out on the app, and kind of cool. They were running some older fights, and it was just 24 hours of Bellator. So
I wonder if they can, like how soon can you watch, this event Friday night on Pluto? Like, I wonder what the turnover is. Like with UFC, it's usually like 30 days or whatever the case is, depending on where if there's ESPN stuff or whatever. But yeah, before you can see it on Fight Pass. So I wonder if they have a turnover. Gotta look into that.
I don't know, but that's interesting. I mean, it all imagine has to do with the rights, especially for DAZN and Paramount.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they can start kicking them to YouTube. But anyways, so pretty much wraps us up for this week. Like to thank Ed for this cool new logo that we now have on our screen for the YouTube listeners. Check us out on allaccessmma.com, helping bring you this podcast. Fans can follow me at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram. He also picked up the UFC 4 video game, so he may be streaming that on his Twitch channel. Watch, what is it? Was it Big Head Carbazol or Big Head Ed or something like that?
Old head.
Old head.
Old head carb.
Old head carb. Check him out as he fights his career through 5,000.
Light heavy Ed Carbazel.
Check him out on his Twitch channel. So thanks everybody that listens. Appreciate the support. Enjoy the weekend and the rest of the weekend, and I'll talk to you next week.
Peace.